Selamat datang and welcome to Kemuncha Awakening, where we learn to awaken to our highest potential one episode at a time. I'm Yasmin, your host for today. So today, we have the pleasure of speaking with someone I truly admire and also one of Malaysia's LinkedIn sensation, Dr. Eric Siew. A doctor by profession, he runs a marketing agency focusing on brand awareness and thought leadership through content marketing for businesses. Eric, as he prefers to be called, is the founder of Chubab Creatives. And together with his team at Chubab, they provide traditional and digital marketing services for various industries such as human resources, retail, e-commerce, real estate, engineering, manufacturing, and healthcare. Eric also builds pockets of communities through workshops and events to foster learning and relationship. And this is how I got to meet Eric. So listen in as we learn more from Eric on how he turned from a medical doctor to a digital marketeer. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Hi guys, thanks Yasmin for having me here to share with my thoughts with everybody. Yeah, great to be here.
Thank you so much, Eric, for taking time, to be here with us. So, Eric, if I may, where did your entrepreneurship journey all started?
Um, I would, how do I put this? I wouldn't classify myself as digital per se lah, because the digital itself is just limited to the branch of digital things. I would actually put it under the bigger subset of umbrella whereby it's just marketing alone, because we kind of do the traditional portion of marketings and also the digital portion of marketing. So digital is a very, I would say, a subspec of marketing itself. But the transition was different in the sense that I did not actually throw away my job completely before I moved into this side of things. I was in healthcare for at least 18 years, and I am still in healthcare. I'm teaching at the moment medical students just to keep the knowledge intact. But majority of the time, I actually resigned last year only from my job completely, and now only I started doing this more on a full-time basis. But back then, I was just doing this business as a side, just to see whether it works out for me. But along the journey, I find that okay, there's revenue coming in and I can get an income out of it. Hence the transition from healthcare into the marketing side of things. But I'm still very in touch with the medicine side. It's just that I focus more on the marketing side these days.
If I were to ask you, right, during your medical days, what was your first venture in entrepreneurship?
Okay. Very funny. During my medical days, when I was still working in Singapore, I actually went into selling baby products.
Oh,
Baby products in the sense that more of not just milk powders and stuff, but e-commerce style kind of baby product, but more on the high-end kind of baby products like bags,
mhm.
branded baby shoes,
Wow.
the toys. I was actually liaising with a warehouse in KL where I was working in Singapore, and I worked with the distributors to get the stocks in. So I managed to get in hold with a few stockists, stock up some of the branded baby goods, and had a group of clientele back then. I was running this business for close to 4 to 5 years already before I decided to move on from it. Hmm.
What made you move on from that? I mean, you must have seen something in baby products, right, to venture into baby products?
Yes, there was a time where I would say backside itchy lah, and that really backside itchy one. But that time, because my kids were still small, so I was exposed to a lot of baby products. I was looking at
Mm,
baby products all the time. Hence the
mhm,
decision to go and venture and see whether I have any areas that I can learn. It is
mm,
really, I would say, Langa moments, like really ram
mm,
into moments, because I have no idea how to run a business that time, but I wanted to
mm,
try and see whether I can do it or not.
mhm,
That's why I took the baby product and I started doing this, but it was just groping in the dark at that point of time.
I
Reviews were
see.
good. Mothers were actually reaching out to me. They were reaching
Mhm.
out to me at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
And
Okay.
because that's the time when they are free, you see, when they after they are breastfeeding or after they have fed their child, they go back to bed.
Yeah.
That is the time where they are free to text me. So I was actually responding to mom's wee hours in the morning.
Mm.
The only downside of this whole entire journey was I did not expect the margin to be so
Oh,
small, because
I see.
by the time we cut a lot of the logistics, the warehousing, the deliveries, even the labeling and the SKUs and stuff like that,
Mm.
the take home was probably a meager 10%. We
Oh,
cannot adjust the pricing because the pricing is fixed by the distributors, and you cannot also simply give sales and discounts because the price
yeah.
point is also being controlled by the distributors. So the margin that we are getting is actually very, very minimal for the amount of effort that you put in.
Right.
So after a while, after 5 years, I was doing chubab by the side as well. So I had three
Oh,
things together. So the one was like, oh, I cannot, there's so much time within 24 hours that I can do. I have
yeah.
to let go something. So unfortunately, this side, I decided to, as much as I enjoy doing it, I had to let it go.
We look at luxury products, right? And we think
Mm,
definitely the margins are really high. And I want to
mm,
ask you, why did you say that the margin was so low? I mean, from a user perspective, it's always like, damn,
mm.
those people are definitely going to be earning a
Yeah,
huge sum, right? Like from
yep,
all
yep.
this money that I'm paying them, especially baby products. And being a first time parent myself, I was like,
Mm,
oh, look at that stuff. It's so beautiful. I want that. And we always tend to pay for the higher, high price goods. Let's
mm,
just put it
mm,
that
mm.
way. And the
Yeah,
branded stuff, especially for the first kids, right? Because they're the
yep,
ones that come into
yep,
the world and you're like, oh, you want to spoil them with everything.
yep,
So
yep.
we thought that the margin is really, must be really high.
Margin was, if give and take, right, for all these products, margin was around 30% if
I
we
see.
haven't actually factored in all the logistic costs, the warehousing and the delivery fees and stuff like that. Also depending on how big is your product. If the product is big, your delivery fee is also gonna be very expensive. It's not like smaller items is always the better way to go
Mm,
because it's cheaper. But if, for example, the mistake that I made back then was also selling diapers, because diapers are actually not heavy, they are light, but they're big.
mm,
So to ship
mm.
a diaper costed me about $30 to $50 per delivery. That
Oh my.
is like equivalent to, it's a good diaper brand like Mary's, Mami Poco, the high
Mm,
end Airfit
mm,
stuff,
mm,
but it's eating into the margin as well. And by the time I sell everything off, right, I get nothing in return because the delivery
mm,
fee is so high. And we cannot jack the
mm.
prices up because it's controlled by the distributors as well.
Oh, I
So they
see.
set the values there lah. So,
I
and if it's
see.
too expensive, mothers will always also tend to search for the best value for money
Bargains.
goods. Yes, bargains, right? So if you put the value too high, nobody's going to buy it as well. Then it's going to
True.
be sitting in your inventory and it's a lost cost there. You're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to move the product. So you have no choice but
True.
to. So these are the little things that I learned along the way that, when it comes to selling products and all, these are the things that we need to consider and stuff. That's why
Mhm.
between that time my business was, this one was called Etisa and the other
Mm,
one was called Chubab. I
mhm.
decided to let go of Etisa is because Etisa was product based and there
I
was a
see.
fixed margin. But
Mhm.
for Chubab is service based. Everything is based off
Mm,
blood and sweat, and the margin generally is how much effort you put in, you get back how much you
mm,
return without any overhead costs,
mhm,
you see. But that side
mhm,
of things, there was a lot of costing involved. That's why I said
mm.
between those two, I had to let go one. I chose Etisa to let it go that one. Mm,
I see, I see. So I guess the fixed cost was so high, you
yes,
couldn't really mend around it
yes,
to earn much around. So when
yeah.
did you actually start Chubab? Was it you said also you were running both together, right? At which point, at which juncture that made you realize that you need to start Chubab, or was it just started out of a love for marketing or?
It's funny all how these two connected. When I was running the baby product, I met Selena, one of my partners,
Mhm.
and she was also running a baby business then. We
Oh,
collaborated
okay.
then. I know Selena for quite some time already, since before 2016. We
Mm-hmm.
collaborated, we did videos together, we did content together. And then after that, because I decided to shut this off, and Selena also decided to move on from the baby business and went back into corporate at that time. But we still stayed in touch with one another.
Mm,
So I started this Chubab from 2016 as well, as more of a solopreneur thing, trying to
mm,
test out the market and see if there's a need for people to come in and design their websites, do graphic designs, and all this artsy fartsy stuff that requires in content.
yeah.
And every month seemed to be, I've been getting quite good leads from them. And
Oh, I
that is,
see.
yeah, that is when I rope in Selena because of her marketing background.
I
I say,
see.
hey, let's see whether we can do something together lah. Because at the end of the day, with my skill set of doing all these designs and with your skill set of doing marketing, we
Mm,
can probably come out with something that is more solid in return. Because the ones that I was doing is more of a one-time off project, meaning that
mm,
once the project ends, that's it. But we wanted to look a little bit further ahead to secure some form of retainer so
mm.
that we don't have to actually search for new clients every time a
Every
project
time.
ends. Yeah.
Mm, mm,
Getting a new client is very difficult because
yeah,
to close one client takes a long time, you see.
yeah.
So best is to have an existing client who stays with us with ongoing work and ongoing retainer. That will make our lives a lot easier as well. So we kind of did that, and it kind of worked out for us. We managed to secure a small group of clients and we service them every month. And
Mm,
by 2020, just before or during when COVID hit, we decided to, okay, let's make this into a Sendirian Berhad and start this full-fledged lah.
wow,
Mm.
wow. At the peak of
Yeah,
MCO,
at the
right?
peak of MCO, the, the reason why we took the peak of MCO is because everybody was stuck at home, and that is the time when
Mm,
I took the opportunity to build up my brand as well. Because
mm,
I've been writing since many years, but on LinkedIn it was 2020, and I realized LinkedIn was a good platform for me because I really enjoy writing, and people there seem to enjoy reading as well.
yeah.
That gives me the
So hot.
opportunity to build up the brand. That's why I managed to fast during MCO build up the profile.
You mentioned about skills, in creating artsy stuffs. Where did you get the skills? Definitely not in medical school, right?
No lah, they were not in medical school. I enjoyed doing all this way before I entered college as well. I was
Mm.
actually I'm not sure whether you've heard of GeoCities before. Yahoo GeoCities. Then it was
Oh, okay, okay,
yeah,
yeah.
it was a very old school kind of web builder kind of thing where you get to design your own website. So I
Mm-mm-mm.
started back then already doing all these
See.
designs and stuff. Then I would actually write long form content. I'm not sure whether you're
Mm,
familiar with Game FAQs. It's a very old site where gamers write long articles to guide other gamers to their games and to finish off their
oh.
games. So I actually was contributing to articles by writing all this content as well. And I was also
Mm,
designing stuff for graphics for competitions back then, because back then when there is no social media platform, like even Friendster wasn't existing yet that time. Before time of
mm,
Friendster, there was what we call the BB forums. BB forums
mm,
is something where everybody, like a community of some sort of interest, would gather together and talk
mm,
about same things. But they
mhm.
do hold like graphic competitions whereby people would design graphics and post it up, and everybody would vote for the
I
graphic of the month.
see.
So we would
Oh,
actually do these kind of designs just for self-satisfaction because being a winner
yeah.
then is like, wow, so shocked, right? Being accredited as winner, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's from all these little things that along the way, even photography I enjoy taking then. So
Mm,
I developed all these skill sets like more than 20 years ago. Now only I get
mm.
to use them lah. Back then it was medical. There's no chance to use all this, right?
The dots eventually connect, right?
Yeah.
What I'm hearing from you. It's somehow like the passion that you had.
Yes.
But what intrigues me more is why didn't you pursue something that you're so passionate? It's designing, right? Why did you enter medical line?
Well, we are in Asian society, right? So, like it or not, I'm the eldest in the family. And of course,
Mm,
being the eldest in the family, there are certain expectations to be met.
mm.
Being a doctor, yes, of course, back then, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do
I
yet
see.
at that point in time. Although the interest is in design and stuff like that, I enjoy music and enjoy drawing. But I would also have to consider the fact that the expectations of parents and parents will always like engineers lah, lawyers lah, doctors lah, accountants lah, and all this, right? Back then, until now, also still the same. So the
Mm,
expectations are there.
yeah.
So sadly, art wasn't one of them then lah. But never
Mm,
too late. Now that
yeah.
still can transition lah, I think.
I really resonate, or I really feel you there, because I wanted to be an interior designer or something along the line of design and architecture or artsy fartsy. I'm also all very arts, And I was only given four choice, and I always tell this story because it's something that was, I still feel like I could have done, but I think now when I think back, I did engineering. I get to connect the dots. I am super, how to say, I project manage everything, and
Mm,
that's
mm,
very engineering. It's always black and white, yes or no, and we move very fast. It's very binary for us,
mm, mm,
and I think that's how I work, very clockwork like and very engineering mindset kind of thing. But I wouldn't say it was all wasted. Yes, I did it to make my parents happy at that point.
mm, mm,
But like you say, it's never too late to venture in what you really like.
mm.
But I don't know why we do it. Sometimes when
Yeah,
I look
yeah,
back,
yeah.
why did we do it? I was the eldest as well, and I feel
Yeah,
it.
it's I would say it's just part of the journey lah. Being an Asian
Mm,
kid, no right or wrong. Like I said, I really enjoyed medicine along the process as well. And similar like you, it taught me many skill sets which I wouldn't have gotten it if not because I went into medicine. How to talk to
mm,
people, how to engage in conversations, how to actually use certain words appropriately. No,
mm.
all this I wouldn't have learned if I have not gone into med school and actually go out there and talk to patients and get the
Yeah.
skill sets back, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I have to give you credit, Derek. You're always this calm and very composed person. And I suppose it comes with all the experience in dealing with so much, with patients in many different state, right? That they might appear, and also family members.
Yeah, I tend to get this, right? Like I have this poker face that I don't really show much of emotions. I mean, in a way, it is part of the training that I received
Mhm.
when I was a junior doctor because we do come across many situations whereby family members are crying, family members are shouting,
Mm.
even normal cases like when the pregnant mother is screaming through the labor room, right? We have to like just stay calm and
Yeah.
provide a soothing voice to make sure that the mother delivers. I mean, it's all these moments, right, whereby you cannot panic. And because I work in the emergency department as well, so everything is chaos. Everything is like in a hectic mode, you see. But if let's say we were to be part of the chaos, then it's gonna be gone case, right? Somebody has to just stay
Yeah.
calm and just provide the directions there and then. So yeah, somehow it trained me to just stay calm regardless of the situation. Lah. In some
Yeah.
ways, it's also a good thing, lah, I suppose.
It is. It is. I think it's a gift to have, staying
Mm,
calm and composed in a lot of situations, because you might get yelling clients even now, right? Like
mm.
patients or family members. Can I get you to share a story of your worst uh, experience in the hospital or ER?
Okay. There are many yelling patients, lah, but I would say this one I remember clearly was it wasn't me that the patient yelled at, but it was a good friend of mine that the
Mhm.
patient yelled at. It was again, it was in GHKL, KLGH.
Mm.
That time we were junior doctors, and this patient was, I think he was furious because of the waiting time as well.
Oh.
And yeah, and because the parent, one of the patient, not the patient, the patient's son, uh, brought him to the hospital, and the waiting time was too long.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was attending to this patient of his,
Mm-hmm.
uh, got shouted, like
Mm-hmm.
literally shouted in the face, like because I mean abusive words, like in the sense that
Oh.
why everybody is so useless, words
Mm-hmm.
like this, so
Mm-hmm.
useless, everything is so slow, can't you do something about it, you know? But at the end of the day, right? Yeah, everybody got hurt in the process. Okay, at times we are still juniors, right? We don't really know how to respond in situations like this. I myself, I was still a trainee doctor then, relatively junior, trying to disperse the situation because my senior doctors didn't want to go near him. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a normal response whereby you send your juniors go and settle the problem, So I'm like,
Yes.
I'm like, okay, how am I supposed to settle it? So you throw yourself into the fire, lor. So
Mm-hmm.
you get baptism of the fire, right? Then the fire rain down on you. So trying to support a friend there end up being scolded at together as well. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time,
Mm-hmm.
that was one of the moments I remember very clearly because he was just yelling at the top of his lungs. I can't even remember what was the incident all about because all I remember was him yelling. But I
Mm-hmm.
realized one thing after the incident was, if patients or anyone, not just patients alone, but anyone who yells at you and raise their voice at you, if you don't yell back and just stay calm, right, there is nothing to feed their fire. If they have no one to respond to it, eventually they will also cool off themselves because they can't be shouting alone with no response. So,
Right.
in some ways, that taught me how to manage people's anger. If somebody is angry, somebody is shout at you, somebody is just slamming the table, stand there and you watch
Mm-hmm.
until they cool off. Then they can start reasoning themselves. And surprisingly, most of them, they may feel even ashamed of what they have done earlier, majority of the time. So you just wait. Don't have to fight back. One. But you just have to
Mm-hmm.
tahan, tahan until they, they, they go over that process and then they start speaking to you back in their normal terms.
Hmm. But what if they don't? Like, I've encountered people just shouting, 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 never turning to a moment of realization. It's almost they've lost it, right? And I can't blame them. It could be many things, right?
Mm,
And I always feel that in every outbreak of emotion, there is an unmet need that we don't know of, right? It could be the need to be respected. It could be the need of so many things, right? Love and affection, and so many
mm,
things that
mm,
that causes that
mm.
eruption of emotion, right? And what if they don't realize for themselves? What would you do, right?
Now, the thing is that there are situations where patients don't realize it. I have another incident whereby I had this patient inside the room demanding for certain cough syrups because I would say he craved for the syrup lah.
Oh,
And yeah, it's some form like an addiction already. And he
mm,
knows specifically what type of cough syrup he's looking for.
oh,
And I decided not to give it to him
mm,
because we have a memorandum back then when I was in Singapore not to dispense all these medications for patients
mm,
who are seeking these medications to what we call go high lah, in that sense.
mm.
So I denied him and shouted in the room.
I
That,
see.
yeah. And shouted near mine, he banged on the table. It's okay. But I stood there and waited for him, but seems like it's not gonna end because he's not
Mm,
getting what he wants, right?
mm,
I have no choice but to, because inside our clinic we have a code red system and a code blue system as well. Code blue is when patient collapse inside the room, that's code blue.
mm,
But we
mhm.
have a system called code red as well, where
Oh, I see.
patient's anger do not diffuse. We have to do
Mm,
something about it. We'll call
mhm,
for code red. And when
mhm.
code red comes, means the clinic manager will come, the security guard will come, the head of department will come,
Oh,
everybody will come.
right.
They will come and they will
Mm,
escort the patient to another room to listen to his complaints there. So
I
it's
see.
not like sometimes they will cool off by themselves. They need a different level of approach whereby somebody needs to
Mm,
interject and tell them that it's not possible, because at the end of the day, there is so much tolerance that we
I
can
see.
give lah, in that sense. So we
Mm.
do need help one to manage certain patients like this.
Mm. So there is need sort of an interjection at that juncture,
Yes,
lah.
yes.
Yeah, because sometimes we give them too much room to say what they want to say, and then it's a
Mm,
never-ending loop. Also, right? They
yes,
go
yes,
around. Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
So
that's very interesting.
depending on where we draw the line lah, how much we can also accept.
Mm.
Mm.
Listening to all these stories, can I ask you, did all this break you at some point? Were you fed up of this medical
No
industry
lah,
or
I
your
find it
line?
rather break me. No, because I find it rather fascinating to understand how human works.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so many different people that I met. Some are very nice, some are very
Mm.
quirky, some I don't even understand what they want. You know, it applies to this business context of things as well. No, clients will come
Yeah.
to you telling all sorts of things, but you ask them, what do you actually want? They can't tell
Mm.
you. They just they just ramble and ramble. They have these jumping thoughts here and there, but they could not put their thoughts down into words. So
Yeah.
it's rather funny in the sense that I've met so many people, but it has never broken me, because I find it rather interesting to learn all these
Mm.
characters. And what I learned is that there are many humans or many characters out there, and
Mm.
everybody has a way of there's a way for us to how to approach them. There's no like one size fits all kind of approach.
Mm.
Everybody needs a different level of approach, because everybody is
Mm.
different. So in
Mm.
that context, medicine also gave me another area where, it taught me that in
Mm.
terms of dealing with human relationships, we got to find the right way to manage people's expectations. Everybody's
Mm.
expectations are different. Yeah.
I love what you said because I think I always tell this to people, right? Not all five fingers are the same. Just
Mm,
like people, right? Everyone
mm,
is really, really different. And in, day out, you're meeting different peoples with different expectation, with
mm,
different goals, different intentions that they bring to the table, different energy altogether. So I love how you said that even in whatever profession, right? I think it's not exclusive to medical line. I think even when I was in the banking industry, what was my biggest takeaway was how did I deal with the relationships, the many different levels in the corporate society, and also your clients, and you have the many different departments as well. There's so many things that has to go into place and really setting that expectation because what they want to hear is also what is in it for me, right?
mm,
If I can say
mm.
that.
That one I do share with my medical students as well, and we do go by these three things lah, which called ICE,
Mm-hmm.
ICE, which is
Mm-hmm.
what's your ideas of things,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then what are the concerns that you have, and at the end
Mm-hmm.
is what are the expectations that you want from it. So when we start to hear about ideas, concerns, and expectations, meaning that we want to see where is the person coming from first, in which context he's coming from first, because
Mm-hmm.
everybody's ideas of things are different. Just exactly
Mm-hmm.
like you mentioned, our five fingers, right? Everybody comes from different backgrounds and culture.
Yeah.
The way they look at things are different. So we have to see it from their perspective of things
Mm,
first. Then what what are they concerned about? What worries
mm,
them that made them come to you? Or at least in a business perspective, if you are looking, what are their major concerns? Before we start selling, we have to listen what their concerns, like what is bothering them, that they actually seek help from other like vendors, or they're trying to reach out to you for a business partnership or
mm,
collaboration. What do they want out from it? Then
mm,
lastly is the expectations, like when they work alongside with you, can you what is the like the person may want to have a specific area of budget that they have only,
mm,
and the expectations is for us to work within the budget, but to come up with a certain amount of assets or collaterals together. So
mm,
when we are able to figure out the ideas, concerns, expectations, then it is when the frequency matches and things
mm,
will go a lot smoother. Then it's just that the problem is a lot of times we are too fast into jumping into business deals that we forgot to identify all three segments of things. Then that's why hiccups
Mm,
would happen along the way, and clients don't stay long with us because there's a fallout and things don't match all this.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love what you shared, the ideas, the concern, and the expectation, this ICE framework, right? And also matching that frequencies.
Mm,
I think being in marketing myself, it's always easy to do it upfront, but along the way, sometimes you might get misaligned because
mm,
main focus is what revenue, right? We want the sales, and in the
mm.
expectations, it's always what's the numbers, what's this churning out. How do you deal with all that lost in that touch? While we set the scene in the beginning, we
Mm.
might in the end, lose that touch as well.
Now, this is a very interesting question because I think if a client starts to lose their scene at the end, it also boils down to the very beginning that they actually do not understand what's going on as well.
Mm,
And
mm,
things were rushed in. I think a lot of business owners, when we see a deal, we want to close it as soon as possible because at the end of the day, cash is lifeline, right? If we have a
mm,
sale, there's money coming in, at least we can have a breather.
mm,
But sometimes, because of that pressure, we make subconscious decisions that leads us to that event. Meaning that
mm,
we didn't really actually address their concerns or understand their
mm,
expectations, but because of the money on the table, we make the decision to take it first. But
mm,
somehow it snowballed and complications arise later where the clients and their expectations do not meet, and there's a clash lah. That's why
mm,
I said before, it's always a good practice before we close a deal, must really, really sit down and talk it all out first. In terms, sometimes we are very shy and afraid to talk about, right? Like, okay lah, this one can, but the work scope here, this one we will take it. But at the end, things
mm,
start piling up and there are more and more coming in, and at the
mm,
end we feel uncomfortable inside that we are doing the work as well and client wants something else instead. This is when conflicts start to happen. So the
mm,
beginning stage should be ironed out clearly before
mhm.
it reaches the end stage.
I think I have a very different perspective on this because I think for clients, right, their idea or their context keeps changing with the changing of times because
Mm,
market never is the same, right? So their ideas may be different because they start looking at other opportunities, other different
mm,
things that they can have and increase their sales and their revenues, right? So they have different worries that come in. So I think while we are doing the initial closure in the beginning, I think there needs to be also like sort of checkpoints, like where do we stand, where are you at, and really like sort of working more like a partnership.
yes.
Yeah.
That's why it's not a one-off thing. It's more of like, even if we see a patient and
Mm-hmm.
we patients with chronic conditions, we don't see them once a year. We
Mm,
see them every few times in the year just to check on their progress and see if there's any changes, if there's any side
mm,
effects from the medications they are taking, and whether they are tolerating well.
mm,
Same principle apply to business as well. So the clients, for them to understand our ways of doing things and also for us to meet their expectations, they need to be regular intervals of meetups to
mm,
align the goals and to meet the expectations, because human behaviors, like you mentioned, it changes a long time and worries
mm,
will start propping in, and we need to, because they are the ones that are engaging us for the service, we need to be
mm,
able to provide the right amount of service or in terms of advice lah, and the consult that
mm,
matches their concerns as well. So
mm,
yeah, it's not like the beginning close already then done deal, just churn out stuff, that kind of stuff.
mm,
But it's more of, again, building up relationships and understanding their pain points, that we try to
mm.
address them one at a time as the months go by.
Yeah, that's very good. I see a lot of insights already from you that, you probably are more very seasoned in your entrepreneurship journey, you know, must have faced a lot of music along the way. Can I ask you then, so you said last year, right? You made the transition finally to move out of,
Mm,
being a medical doctor, fully into, um, entrepreneurship, what was your point of saying that breakthrough moment, or that moment that says that, okay, this is it, I'm going to make it, I'm going to just shift everything, all my energy to my entrepreneurship journey?
Mm, I would say it's the bank account. I had to look at, because at the end of the day, I'm the only one working at this point of time.
Mm,
My wife is actually taking care of the kids full time.
mhm,
So there's more like the sole breadwinner of the family. We used
mhm.
to, both of us used to work, but ever since the kids are around, she decided not to work and take care of the
I
kids full
see.
time. So the income comes from me. And I have to look at my bank account, whether it can keep me sustainable for the next 2 years or so.
Oh, okay.
Uh, if I
2 years.
cannot sustain myself and the family for 2 years, I wouldn't have made the move, because again, I'm no longer like the bachelor, have no responsibilities. I can do what I want. Cannot, ma, because I reached
Mm-hmm.
the age whereby I have a family that I'm responsible for, and I have mouths
Mm-hmm.
to feed as well. So I had to make sure that the bank account is sustainable. My personal
Mm-hmm.
bank account is sustainable for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I don't draw any money from the company's bank account, I still won't die of hunger and starvation. That's
I
one.
see.
Then I also had to look at the company's bank account, because there
Mm-hmm.
is also salary to be paid too. And
Mm-hmm.
how long can I keep it sustained for me to employ or get others to be on board on the team? So these two
Mm-hmm.
factors there I have to consider lah. And once I hit my goals, that is the time that I threw in my letter lah. Because
Mm-hmm.
having to worry every month not having enough to eat is already very stressful already. Business stressful enough already. But
Yeah,
having
yeah.
something to worry on the side together with the business, I think
Yeah.
I don't want to have so many worries that sometimes when this worry starts popping in, then we start making bad decisions, bad choices,
Yeah.
because
Mm.
we are like the money becomes like you dangle a carrot in front of the horse or the donkey, right? You,
Yeah.
you just led by money wherever there is, right? You don't want to be in that kind of situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, so bank account, at least the amount there to know that I can keep me and my family sustainable for the 2 years was the move lah that I made. That
Mm.
was the decision maker lah.
When you sit that carrot, dangling right in front of you, right? It reminds me a lot of my coaching sessions, because a lot of people are swayed from their values because of this financial
Mm,
security thing, right? Because
mm, mm,
their focus is so much on the financial insecurity, because they feel very insecure themselves. But that's not their values at the end of the day. And then you get so swamped in trying to make sure that there's money to go around the
yeah,
family,
yeah.
right? Yeah, and that pains you. That really, really pains you. And but that's not who you are. But
Mm,
that's what you have to do, right? You have
mm,
not of a choice, and you make really wrong decisions. And at the
yes,
end of the day, you really are not doing yourself justice, and also the people around you justice as
yes,
well. And I feel
yes.
that. I feel that. I'm gonna ask you now, what is your biggest challenge? Because I think it's never easy to just pull the plug on a secure
Mm,
job. I think for me, even it was a very big, tough decision. And I realized that you don't even use your doctor in front. And I think you're
mm,
probably the third or fourth person who says, no, no, don't call me doctor. And
mm,
I really appreciate that. I think that's something a lot of people are very tied to, because that's something that they earn. They feel that they've earned
mm,
this, right? I've
mm.
achieved this. It's something that's so precious to me. And now you're saying that you're an entrepreneur. What do you think was your biggest challenge? Would you think that having to sacrifice all this was your challenge?
Wow, very deep question, huh?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, right? The biggest challenge for me was people, because at the end I was also asking myself, who exactly am I? Because when we
Mm,
answer that question, right, we tend to tie ourselves down with our job, like what's our role.
mm,
I'm the director of this company, I'm a doctor, and I'm the accountant. We always go back to what we do. But if we really ask ourselves back, who are we? What values do we carry? And
mm,
Then I along the ways I figured out that my priority lies in my family and the people that I hold close
Mm,
relationships.
mm,
I'm a very, although as much as I'm an introverted kind of guy, I'm also a very people person because
mm,
I like to somehow in one way or another I like to see people interact with one another, be happy with
mm,
each other's presence.
mm.
I like bringing people together as well. As much as I don't like to talk, but I enjoy watching people talk. And it's these things that like forming teams, seeing teams gel together, like seeing family members together. I'm the kind of person who likes, I don't know what is the exact right word for it, but I like to be surrounded by this kind of atmosphere,
Mm,
like a very happy, warm, and fuzzy kind of moments that
mm.
people just being themselves. And that is what actually I try to achieve from what I'm doing at the moment as well. And I'm sure Yasmin, you've seen through the MKK sessions, the Marketing Kao workshop sessions that we have been doing. It's not so much for the money, but it's
Mm,
more for the relationships as well.
yeah.
And even in my team as well, I try to make sure everybody is happy within the team. Like everybody cares for one another. There's no backstabbing. There's no toxic environment and all those kind of stuff, right? So I always believe people is a very important ingredient. And the challenge for me is how to keep this relationship going and
Ah,
how to get everyone together to be supportive of one another. Like
mm,
really learn how to listen rather
mm,
than jumping to conclusions, rather
mm.
not pointing fingers when problem arises or when
Yeah,
concerns, straight away you point finger, this is your problem, no, but more of looking it from a holistic point of view, whereby
right.
how can we solve this problem together? Yes, mistake has happened, but how can
Yeah,
we solve it rather than, hey, this is your fault, you better go and sort it out. That kind of moments, right? So it's
yeah,
all these human challenges, I would say, that
yeah.
sometimes it it good days, but when problem happen, it keeps me frustrated and flustered as well to make sure that it goes back
Mm,
to its tip top condition that is my biggest challenge I would feel.
mm. I love how you never mentioned anything about very something personal to you, like your
Mm,
title or your position or anything like that, and you mentioned something about relationship. And I think I'm also currently in a position that I think so much about unity in keeping things going together as a community, which I have started growing with this couple of women that I've gathered together. We share the same goals, the same aspirations together. And the only thing that keeps me awake is not about our aspiration, but how to keep this momentum going, how to keep them all together. And I think that's not something that can happen overnight. And I've come
mm,
to terms with that. It's something that you really have to every day sort of nurture it in a very fragile way, right?
yeah.
In Yeah, it's not something easy, and I felt every word that you say because
It takes time this one really takes time, and it takes a lot of effort as well, I would say,
yeah.
because relationship doesn't grow just within a day. It takes over the course of
Mm,
months and sometimes years, but we
yeah,
just got to keep going at it lah. Because
yeah,
if this is something that we treasure and we value, that is why it's also important that we know ourselves, what we cherish and what we prioritize in life. Because it's not the titles and it's not the job that we do, but more importantly, what do we hold? What is our internal values that keep
values,
us
yeah,
going? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I'm so big on values, and whenever you say
Mm.
values, right, I've created this chart of values, and I always know this is what I want. And for me, I'm really big on relationship, and I would fight for relationships
Mm.
because I'm so deeply motivated in people who stick together, will always be together, and we'll strive together, no
Mm.
matter what, right? But we can never please everybody because that's how it is, right?
Mm,
But it just takes one voice to unite everything.
mm,
So as you when you mentioned, like, you see your teams driving, and I feel like you already have that spirit going on, because I can see your team very, very motivated to do the things that you maybe share some secret sauce with me. How do you get them so motivated to really drive? Because I see you as the face of Shubab, but I see your team really are the strength of Shubab, like
mm,
they
mm,
are really are the ongoing drivers of everything, right? They do
mm,
it
mm,
almost effortlessly. I maybe
mm.
there are a lot of effort that's going on from your end, but I think yes, you are the glue of it. But we see Chubab as this entire team, right? That is really a game changer for me, because I don't see that, because sometimes we just see the leader, never so much of the team, because the leader outshines everyone.
I do get this question a lot, so as to how do you get the team motivated and how do you get them together? I
Mm,
It also boils down to us ourselves being whether we are self-aware of the situation or not. Many a
mm,
times we want to be in front because it's our thing, it's our business,
mm,
and that itself we kind of overshadow our team, and
mm,
or we always feel like because we employ them, their salary, they're just got to do the job, that kind of stuff.
mm,
It's the mindset shift, and it's the way how we treat people within the
mm,
organization or the team as well. As
mm,
for how I do it, I do spend a lot of time talking to them,
mm,
understanding them. Uh, of course, their age gap with me also is quite significant in the sense that sometimes I may be like at least a decade older than them. So the frequency also might be a little bit far off the match, right? But
mm,
again, if I were to really sit down and try to see their perspective of things and how
mm,
understand how they look at things, then it gives them an idea of how they also get to look at how I see things and how I look at things. But
mm,
importantly is I think as the person leading a team or leading a group, uh, as much as I want to don't want people to call me leader lah, because it feels like a heavy responsibility kind of stuff. But they 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 see me as the leader, and I have to also embrace that I am the leader. This is really literally a self conviction, not being a dictator, but being a leader. I would try to listen to their opinions and their perspective of doing things.
mm,
And I, most of the time, I told them, at least the young ones and
mhm,
within the partner of the team, I said, if any of you were to call me and tell me that you are in trouble, I will be there for you. I will not ask you a
mm,
single question.
mm,
And they all know it. And including my business partners, they will also do the same for the team, and they will also do the same for me. And it's a mutual relationship lah.
I
I
see.
say, I I shared with the young ones as well. I said, I will provide you as much as I can. I will support you as much as I can. I will never scold you, or at least I like to dish out emotional damage to them one. But
Mm,
I said, despite how you break, I said, I'm not hitting you as a person. I'm hitting you at the work itself because of the
mm,
quality of the work. But all in all, I think it took me at least 6 months to a year to
mm,
break them. What I mean by break them is to allow them to break that wall in front of them, the
mm,
barrier that they can be open with me. So
I
now
see.
the team, especially the young ones, they anytime they have any emotional struggles or anything on top of their mind that they feel they need someone to talk to, they reach out to me. And it's very rare, right? You go and I would say go and talk to your boss about your personal feelings.
Yeah, exactly.
So you
Yeah,
wouldn't think about, okay, I want to talk to my boss about my personal feelings, but they
yeah.
do. They do
Mm,
come to me and ask me for advice in life, advice in terms of finance, family, whether they should move on to do something else, what's their goal, what's their purpose in life, and all these kind of things. They do come and
mm,
talk to me about it, and
mm,
yeah, and I'm grateful that they are willing to come and share this with me because I think it's also not easy for them to open up. So,
mm.
like I said, I would share my stories with them as well to allow them to see from my point of view. So it works both ways, for me to learn from them and also for them to learn from me. It's mutual in that sense.
Yeah, I love how you said you share your stories as well, because I think that's how people actually start relating to one another.
Mm.
And I think that's how you also became a sensation on LinkedIn sharing your stories. And I think a lot of people engage on your posts. And I'm always waiting for your stories to come up, because it's like it's interesting to read, and how openly you share them. Maybe share also your secret sauce in what kind of stories really get people engaging, because I think a lot of people struggle, firstly in getting the content out, and then also getting the engagement. And then I
Mm,
feel there are also this bunch of people who are so afraid to engage in a post. they
mm,
they fear that, am I going to say something wrong? This is LinkedIn,
mm,
it's
mm,
not
mm.
Instagram, it's not Facebook. It's always that outlook of LinkedIn being uber professional,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more of that. What happens with the retribution of posting on LinkedIn and all eyes are looking at the comment and stuff like. But
Yeah.
I think people struggle to post on LinkedIn because they want to portray the good self of them only.
Mm.
I would say I say this with a pinch of salt, because if you look at LinkedIn, everybody writes about happy things, positive things. Sometimes there is over positivity. We call it toxic positivity as well. Everything must
Mm,
be uplifting, everything must be good, everything must be painted all nicely and all. But I tend to go the other way around instead. That's why I always share with others. Try to share about your struggles, because a lot of people actually do not want all this all this positivity because they have
mm,
heard enough. What they want to know that they are people who are like them and exist
mm,
among them, and they would want to read all these stories to know how you overcome them. So that is
mm,
how I write my stories, because I shared
mm.
from my personal struggles, because I don't really write about my awards. I don't even have any awards lah. But it's more of all the struggles that I go to. Sometimes money not enough. It's true, money is not enough.
Yeah.
Sometimes business not going well, which is true. Business not
Mm,
going well enough. Sometimes I do not get the leads, or sometimes clients decided to move away from our
mm,
business and decide to access. It is what it is. So I write it.
yeah.
It is what it is. I don't sugarcoat it with cotton candy and stuff like that to make it sweet
Yeah.
and nice to look at. But I tell the stories as it is, and that is
Mm,
the struggle for many people because of the fear of retribution, meaning that
mm.
people fear being looked at as failures. But I think failures is not the one that make us bad.
Grow.
Failures are the one that make us grow, that make us thrive. So it's again how we look at things and how we look at different perspectives. And yeah, my LinkedIn posts, generally I got traction by writing all these type of posts and stories which got the audience, at least the ones that share the same values as I do, to interact with one another and build out the community from there. So yeah.
But it wasn't just on LinkedIn, right? That your relationship with them was also off LinkedIn, and
Yes.
yeah.
So I was actually uh we started off on LinkedIn during MCO period where we couldn't meet one another. But ever since MCO lifted, then I started going out to meet all these people. It was scary in the first place because meeting a stranger out from online, it's not an
Mm,
easy thing to do, right?
mm,
Then again, it goes back to my medical practice. I've been seeing strangers all my time.
Oh, yeah,
A
yeah,
patient walks through the door, it's a stranger to me. Patient walks through the door, it's
yeah.
a stranger to me. So it's, again, like I said, healthcare actually helped me to develop this sense of
Mm,
certain level of confidence to engage a stranger. So that is why I took the opportunity to go out and meet people.
mm.
And from striking these relationships, people actually, in return, once they know me as a person, they will come interact with the post as well. So if you
Yeah,
realize the post, when I write, the comments are different and unrelated to the post
yeah,
itself. We
sometimes.
talk we talk random stuff inside the comment because they are here
Mm,
to just chit chat and catch up with one another and
yeah,
also indirectly support one another's post.
it's true.
But we
Yeah.
don't really talk about the post itself. So
Mhm.
online and offline is equally important when it comes to LinkedIn because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a networking platform, not
Yeah,
just a job seeking platform. Yeah.
correct. Yeah. And I also get a lot of people just, going in there and raring about their awards and raring about themselves. And as much as I want to engage, it stops me. It's like almost like in the face, right? And I feel like people are not realizing it. Yes, you might get, wow, congratulations, but it stops a lot at that. There's no depth in that relationship. It's more
Mm.
of a very superficial,
Yep.
yeah, and then what you're going to say about that thank you, right? It's
Mm.
a never ending loop of congratulations, thank you. But with your post, Eric, I really love how, while the comments or the interaction at the bottom may not have depth to your story, there's a lot of bonding that's happening. There's so much
Mm.
raw feelings,
Mm.
there's so much engagement in terms of who you are rather than what you are, right?
Yeah.
It,
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like I say, Lord, it's always going back to who are we?
mm,
What are we? So it's always just be ourselves lah. I think that, you know, rather, as much as we would like to put up a barrier in front of us, I think people will always respond to the person themselves, and people can sense it over time.
mm,
Even
mm,
even yourself also, when you look through posts, you know who you want to respond to, who you don't want to
yeah.
respond to. You can actually sense it from the way they are write-ups, and of course, you look through the comment section, you will notice. Oh, you know, like even people like again, I'll bring it up Chung An because you look at his posts and look at the
Mm,
people that he engaged with, the way he comments and the way he engaged is it's just him being himself,
yeah, yeah.
right? So it's just him being himself, and we all have our own personalities that people
Mm,
would want to interact with the real person
mhm.
rather than a guarded person who just want to show one side of himself or herself. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's when it doesn't get so scary meeting a stranger, because
Mm,
that person is just very real rather than being utterly fake
mm,
online, and then we just don't know what to expect when we meet that person, right?
yep.
Yeah. I really love your sharing, and it's so raw and so relatable. It's just so down to earth. I think that's the word for you. You're very down to earth. I want to leave our listeners and our viewers with something to take back from this. And I think it comes down to learnings, right? And I think you've learned so much over the years in your medical journey as well as your entrepreneurship journey. I want to ask you, what do you think would be some lessons that you wish you learned or you wished you knew before you entered into the entrepreneurial journey, that you want to share with our viewers?
Mm. One thing for sure, again, I will go back to relationships.
Mm,
Like I said, I'm a people person, and in our context of things today, right? I think with all these mobile phones and, you know, messages and online texting and stuff like that, the human connection is dying off.
yes.
I would say it's dying off. People don't, especially the young ones, people don't talk to one another anymore, and people
Yeah.
prefer to text. Even phone calls these days is like a challenge. You want to pick up the phone and
True.
call somebody, you also feel scared. So it becomes like communication has become a challenge for many of us, but
Mm,
deep down, we all crave for that kind of level of
Yeah.
communication as well. As much as we are afraid of it, people want it.
Yeah.
And people would appreciate the little hugs that you give them, or people would appreciate you sitting next to them. No need to give answers or solutions to their problems, but people would appreciate
Mm,
you just being there, listening,
mm, mm,
acknowledging that we are of the same and we are also having struggles. No need to provide any answers. Just being there is good enough to get someone going. And I think as a society or as a group of people, or at least from my perspective, I think we need all this to continue to move forward. So if you want one thing from me, from all this entrepreneurship thingy or my past life, I think at the end of the day, it boils down to relationships with people.
mm.
I think nothing is more valuable than building genuine relationships, understanding one another's needs, because we all need that. We can't live in isolation.
Can I ask you, did something happen for you to come to this realization? How did you come to
Hmm.
then? How did you come to this realization that relationship is the most important thing?
Funny, I also don't know. But
Mm.
I already started realizing it in my 20s already.
Oh,
That
very
is
young.
why very young lah that time. But somehow I kind of, I always we have all these thoughts in our minds and
Mm-hmm.
always, um, wonder to ourselves, who are we, what do we do, what do we want in life, that kind of stuff. Am I making enough
Mm-hmm.
money, am I, all these kind of thoughts, right? But one thing for sure, I ask myself, what do I really want? What would
Mm.
make me very sad one
Mm.
day if I were to
Mm.
lose it?
I see. I see.
Like what would really stop me from progressing if I were to lose it? Then I realize it's the people that I have close relationships with.
Mm.
Like really will actually just stop me from progressing, my wife,
Yeah.
kids, people, my good friends and stuff like that. What hurts me the most? Then I realized money is not the one that hurts me the most. Business is not the
Mm.
one. It's relationships that hurts me the
Yeah.
most. Then I told myself, okay, I'm going to cherish them and I will try my best to build up as much as I can, because these are valuable things that you cannot buy with money.
So this is like your North Star, right? Your value, right? Your
Yeah, yeah,
driving thing.
yes,
Yeah. And
yeah,
figuring
yeah.
that this is, I think it's very essential for anybody for the matter. Because if you are chasing the wrong things in life and that's not something that's aligned back to your values, you
Mm,
probably never be able to put all your energy because there's something
yeah,
like not in alignment right there.
right, right.
I love what you shared, and I think I cannot say the same that I came to this realization at my 20s. I'm a late bloomer in myself because I think in my 20s it's really so much about me, 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 me. And I think my turning point was when my dad became really, really sick.
Mm,
To the point where we had to rush to the ER. The doctors in the ER said he's in a very critical state, and
mm,
please call your closest family members. And that broke me. And I think I couldn't see my job eye to eye. I couldn't see anything eye to eye. Like nothing really mattered at that point.
mm,
And there are some psychology books that also ask us, right, at the point of death, what is the thing that really truly matters to you?
mm,
Yeah. And if you come to realize that, then that's your turning point and that's your value and that should be your North Star. And that should be
mm.
a guiding point. I'm envious that you found that out at 20. Okay, before I let you go, Eric, give me three advice or give the listeners three advice for those who are considering making a drastic career change from probably a doctor to a entrepreneur or something very, very drastic, right? Like even for me, I
Right,
went from engineering to being a photographer. So
right.
very
Okay,
drastic. So what would your three advice be to them?
okay. Number one, I would say backup. Uh, have enough backup in your accounts. so that you may not be burdened by unnecessary stresses when you focus on the things that you enjoy doing, your passion, or anything of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, hang on first to whatever job that you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
or save enough so that you can take the move or the jump. That's one. Have
Mm-hmm.
enough backup. Number two, don't do this alone. Find people who share similar values as you
Mm-hmm.
and go together. It doesn't need to be business partners, it doesn't need to be team members. It just people who share the same values as your support system to
Mm-hmm.
carry you through tough moments. Because
Yeah.
tough moments will happen. It's not always just sunshine and glory. And of course, the third one is perseverance, I will call it. Things will only happen when we persevere through the darkest times, and through the perseverance takes a bit of training, because you need to go through a downtime many times, and you need to just hang on in there. That's why your support group is also very important. But
Mm-hmm.
having these three ingredients together, and if you have all these three, then yes, perhaps it's time to take the jump, or be doing what you enjoy doing, I suppose.
Can I just dig a little bit more? When you say
Can.
backup, how much backup do you mean?
I would say we got to calculate how much expenses we have or we spend in a
Mm-hmm.
month.
Mm-hmm.
Then give and take 12 months to 18 months of backup.
I see.
6 months, although people say 6 months, I think 6 months not enough.
Mm-hmm.
By the time we are 3 to 4 months, we are running out of savings, right? There's tendency for us to quit and go back to our old ways already, or go back to corporate
Mm-hmm.
life and whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, so 6 months is probably not enough for a business
Mm-hmm.
to pick up as well. So you probably need at least 1 year to 18.
You mentioned that uh you need people to support you, but I always feel that we don't know who's going to support us in this journey, right? It's a
Mm,
very difficult. Your family might not be there to support you, right? You're probably alone in this journey. So who did you turn to support? Was your
yeah.
family there to support you?
In order to know who family members usually is just there. Um, Sometimes to get family members to support is not exactly an easy task. When I meant support, is people who see the same value as you, meaning you have no choice but to go out to meet people first.
Mm.
And you will encounter somebody who holds the same value as you. I'll give you an example. You know Sharon from
Sharon, yeah,
Iconic?
Sharon,
Yes.
yeah.
I met her in 2020.
Mm.
And ever since then, right, she's one of my strong supporting pillars in the journey. She will make, or at least hang out with my team. She will be participating in the activities that we do,
Mm.
and she will make time to allocate space for us to do our things. So all this time, and even sometimes give her advice, because she's a very seasoned entrepreneur as well.
Mm-hmm.
Her background is very strong in terms of entrepreneurship, and she's from a sales background. So
Mm-hmm.
she imparted a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and also advice, very wise advice to how I should actually manage things, which I've never known all this long. So
Oh,
it's things like this that people that, if I don't be on LinkedIn, I wouldn't have met Sharon. And if I wouldn't have
mm,
met Sharon, I would have learned all these things from her. So it's
right.
it's a process to getting the
Mm,
right group of people. It's not just like, hey, can you be my support group? That kind of something. It's not gonna
mm,
happen that way. So you
mm,
have to take time to find the right people along the journey. And when they
mm,
do, then stick closely to them. Because who
mm.
shape us at least is the five closest people that we hang out around the most.
Yeah.
So yeah, right. We most of us will know that the five closest people that we hang out will actually shape our mindset and stuff like that. So that's important in terms of support group.
Yeah. And I think you're getting at to her almost being some sort of like a mentor to you,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people feel that my spouse has to be my support, right? My
Mm,
family has to be there, or my kids has to be there for me, or my parents, right? Or whoever they feel that they are closely related to. And I think that's unnecessary, that those closely related to you will understand, because they want you to succeed.
mm,
Leaving your job is for them, it's, they cannot understand, probably they feel that they want you to succeed, then they don't know how this is going to pan out. They probably don't share the same vision as you, and they might
mm,
not be the right person to help hold your hands. So
mm.
looking out for someone else in your greater circle, right? Whether
Yep.
it's a stranger that you probably meet, or someone that you had coffee with, right, and go
Mm,
out and
mm.
network. I think that's the biggest struggle for a lot of new
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, just bridging that gap, right? Getting out
Mm.
there and just trying to talk. Um,
Even
uh,
even Auntie Prima, Auntie
yeah,
Prima,
yeah.
she became my godmom. So
Oh,
she took me in as like what we call kai zai lah. I mean, she's like
mm,
godson lah, which I'm grateful, because at the end of the day, a lady of her position, and she has seen through society and run through corporates.
yeah,
And she just sit in with me on and off, just to chit chat, knowing how
right.
I was doing, and just checking on me, see
Mm,
whether I'm worn out, I'm tired, do I need any sort of help. And
yeah,
she, yeah, another strong pillar of support, which
yeah,
I don't know if I do
yeah.
bump into all different people. Even Yatong in
Mm,
Perth,
mm,
she's one of our members also. He's a 60-year-old plus guy, close to 70,
mm,
grandpa level already. But
yeah.
I confide in him when I have struggles and I have feelings that I cannot deal with. I just need someone to listen to my vent
Mm,
and my rant, right? Then he'll
mm,
be there, just nodding,
mm,
like, talking to a father,
mm,
that kind of stuff. It's just not. So
mm,
it's this kind of support that grant us that inner peace, that we
mm.
know that people understand our struggles, that we are not alone.
Yeah, yeah. And you said perseverance, right? I think that's so crucial, that third point. Because there are many a times I think we all want to give up.
Mm.
It's not so easy. What kept you going?
What kept me going? I have to thank my dad for this. Like, actually, my dad, right, used to be my dad is didn't have actually a degree or whatsoever,
Mhm.
but he managed to work his way up all to a managerial role in a company back then during his early days. And he couldn't really speak English per se back then.
Oh.
His English was bad, like really bad.
Mm.
But he met my god grandma, who is a school teacher. School teachers back then are very fierce and very garang. I mean, he he decided to back then very ganas one. So
My mom is an
he
ex-school teacher, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah. So, so you that kind of level, he she took my father in as a god grandson also, godson
Mm,
also. So from there, she taught my dad how to speak English fluently. But because
mm,
of my dad's financial background, he wasn't well to do from a well to do family. He needed money to make a living, to generate income, to take at least a diploma. My dad was actually learning English and also going to the warehouse to cut wood,
oh my
carpentry
god.
wood and so
Oh,
on. So every day he will do that non-stop. Morning, go and cut wood, at night go and attend class. Morning, go and cut wood at night,
wow.
until the point whereby, and he did it for many, many years. And people actually scorned him that time because of his low level graduate, but he just tahan and continue to work his way up without
Mhm.
anything. When my dad shared the story, right, when I listened to it, if my dad can do it like that, I'm already my dad has already provided me quite a substantial amount of footing for me to move forward. If my dad can do it from way beyond low levels, right, to reach a
Yeah.
certain level until he retire, right, what's more of me, he helped me put me a little bit
Yeah.
above the finish, closer to the finishing line. So for me, also my dad is also my role model lah. For although I don't tell him all these kind of things like after that he shock syndrome and stuff like that. But he is the role model for the way he do things, the way that I engage people, the way that I talk to people. Actually, I emulated him a lot because his character and my character is almost identical. He's also a very people person also. So to say who taught me how to persevere, I think at the end of the day, I think is not that my dad taught me, but he shared with me his stories that I learned how to listen and understand what he went through, and I took it upon myself lah to be like him also.
I think it's also rubbed on you, right?
Yeah,
What what he is and his values and his
yeah,
skills and
yeah.
all that, right? Yeah, it's interesting to hear.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Eric, for taking our time, sharing all this with us. It's a pleasure having you here. And ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with Eric, please feel free. I'm going to drop his LinkedIn down below. So there you have it, folks. The incredible journey of Eric from saving lives in the hospital into capturing hearts online. Eric's story reminds us that it's never too late to pursue your passions and redefine your career path. If you've been inspired by Eric's story, hit the like button, share this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing content. Remember, your support helps us bring more inspiring stories like Eric's to you. Until our next episode here at Kamuncha Awakening, keep pushing boundaries and exploring new horizons. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.